Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Cheshire, Batgirl, Ross, and Raven, part 2. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Namikaze09, link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let's start the story. Arashikage and Ravager were staring at one of the deadliest assassins aside from Deathstroke to ever live, Lady Shiva. Kage has heard a lot about her reputation of taking out her targets with nothing but her bare hands, even if they were superhuman, and also traveled the globe in facing true martial artists in combat. Ravager watched as Naruto and the former assassin of the League of Shadows had a stare down. She gave him an icy glare that would make even someone like the Joker tremble in fear, but Naruto returned the glare. So we finally meet face to face with Arashikage, Lady Shiva said in monotone, as she studied Naruto's form. I've heard some very interesting rumors about you, and how you're feared by the crime lords across the globe. They claim you to be the physical manifestation of death. Naruto, on the other hand, kept his gaze on Lady Shiva. My reputation precedes me, though I didn't think I'd catch the eye of the infamous Jade dragon who slays her targets with her bare hands, he stated, as he placed Samahata on his shoulders. So is there a reason why you're here, since I don't think you came all this way just to say hi? Naruto asked the female assassin. Actually there is. I've come all this way just to challenge you, and to see if you live up to your reputation as the ultimate ninja. She answers by getting a raised eyebrow from Arashikage. A challenge, huh? In a puff of smoke, Samahata disappears in the seal on Naruto's gauntlet, and gives Shiva his full attention, and she nods at him. Well, the night's still young, so why not? I could use a good fight, he answered. Good, but not here. There's a clearing not far from here that we can use. She points to a southwestern side of the city. We'll have our death match there. Lady Shiva then steps backwards into the shadows and vanishes. A death match? Why am I not surprised? Almost every merc, assassin, or crime boss is after my head, he muttered. Ravager on the other pats him on the shoulder. Naruto, I've known Lady Shiva for a while, and believe me when I say if she wants to kill you, it's more in the form of facing a warrior than for currency. Very few masters in martial arts can face her, and she could even give my dad a run for his money, she states. That may be so, but she hasn't faced me yet. With that, he places an arm on her shoulder, and they vanish in a swirl of wind. Later on, the three were inside an abandoned warehouse in the outskirts of the city. Both Arashikage and Lady Shiva were standing a few feet away from each other while Ravager was watching the event from the sidelines. Naruto was studying his opponent with a critical expression under his masked face. He heard the tales about this Crimson Demoness, and how she searched far and wide for the greatest fighters to ever live, and defeated them with her hands alone. Despite his abilities, he knew better than to underestimate someone despite their abilities not being on par with his, as even guys like Joker could be a threat to guys at Superman's level. She is eyeing me in a way like a leopard searching for its prey, watching every form of movement I make, and if I show even one small flaw in my moves she'll go in for the kill, he theorized before speaking up. So what are the rules for Lady Shiva? Naruto asked. You seem pretty confident there, child, and I would advise you not to take me lightly. I have fought opponents who were stronger, and even more skilled than I was, but in the end they grew arrogant and cocky, and then I left them broken, she warned the blonde sage. I assure you, Shiva, I am not taking you lightly. Arashikage shrugs his coat off, and tosses it to the side, as well as his weapons pouch and utility belt. I may be a ninja, but I know firsthand that underestimating someone can be dangerous no matter how they appear. Now shall we get started? He asked the female assassin, who nodded. Yes, let's, she says before getting into a karate stance. Arashikage responds by standing straight up and turning his body to the left. He brings his left arm behind his back and his right arm forward and facing upwards in a bring it gesture, the stance Lee and Guy use in the Goken style. Ravager's eye widens when she sees his stance, and Lady Shiva for the first time had a look of curiosity in her eyes. What kind of form is that? Throughout my travels where I have faced masters of the styles, I learned I've never even seen one like this. Her eyes narrowed as she analyzed Arashikage's form. Something's not right here. It would appear that he has several openings in his form, but in reality he doesn't. I guess I'll have to figure out this strange fighting style by attacking first. With that, she lunges at the blonde, and delivers a fast palm strike to his chest, only for Arashikage to respond by quickly stepping to the side, and deflecting it with his free arm. She skids forward a little before she twists her body around in order to deliver a reversal roundhouse kick, which he blocks with the same arm before grabbing her ankle. Shiva frowns before jumping up and doing the roundhouse kick with her other leg, only for Arashikage to lean his head back, letting go of her leg while she backflips and lands back on her feet while Naruto gets back in the same stance. She's good. They both thought before she went on with the attack by delivering a low and mid-knife hand strike to his leg and torso only for him to block them, as well before finishing with a knee strike which he stopped with his palm before using it to somersault backwards twice and land back on his feet as she continued with the assault. Ravager, on the other hand, was confused as to why her partner/boyfriend was on the defensive so much, since she knew he could easily defeat Shiva with a few moves if he wanted to. "Why are you not fighting back, boy? I was expecting a fight to the death with someone even Deathstroke himself would have qualms of fighting," Shiva taunted, as he ducked from an overhead swipe and blocked a high kick before dodging a double roundhouse kick. "Oh? It's my turn to fight back already?" Kage asked, as he swatted her double knife hand strike which he dodged, as well. "Okay then." With that, he crouches down and delivers a sweep kick to her legs which she ducked from. 2 predicted GUH. Pain erupted from her ribcage due to the spinning back kick Naruto delivered. Her eyes widened at the speed of the kick before flying backwards and landing on her back hard. "Konoha Gariki Senpu, strong leaf whirlwind," Naruto whispered before vanishing. Shiva shook the pain off, and her instincts went haywire before she looked up. Her eyes widened as she saw Arashikage descend from the sky with his right hand raised back into a fist and then swing it forward. She instantly rolls backwards and flips away as his fist slammed into her current spot, but the impact causes a human-sized crater. That was overkill. Rose deadpanned as he got up and cracked his knuckles. Shiva got into a wushu stance and slowly backed away as she saw the crater he delivered. "In case you're wondering, that style I used was one of several I learned and mastered. The one I currently use is known as Goken, or in English terms strong fist. It's a style based on causing external damage and breaking bones. The user must possess an unparalleled level of raw strength and speed in order to use it at its true potential. It's a technique I learned alongside a comrade of mine and his mentor," Naruto explained to the woman. "Is that so? Well, that really is a very deadly style you have in your arsenal, but still, even with it you're still no match, as I can easily combine more than one style I've learned and mastered instantly, and with your current level of speed, I highly doubt you could touch me again," Shiva states. "Well, you are right about my current level of speed. Right now I'm basically moving at the level of an Olympic-class athlete. I can easily move even faster if I wanted to right now since I'm currently fighting you at your level," Naruto states, which resulted in Shiva's eyes widening in disbelief. "You're bluffing. Unless you're a metahuman, there is no way you can be faster than this," she said, unaware of the twinkle in his eyes. "Well, I may not be a metahuman, as you call them, but I'm not exactly human either. Well, not on your terms," he said. Instead of explaining, "I'll show you a little advice, don't blink," he warned. Unfortunately she did, and that was when she doubled over in pain due to the fact that he delivered a palm strike to her torso, and was now up close to her. But how she wondered before seeing from a distance that the blonde a few distance away from her vanished instantly. "I told you, I'm faster than you think," he answered before bringing his arm back. "Kusho, vacuum palm." Naruto brings his palm to her torso once again only to stop it a few inches from, and Shiva is blown off her feet and sent flying backwards by the tremendous force and speed of the attack, and then her mid-flight is stopped by her crashing through a tree and hitting the ground hard enough to create a skidding trail before stopping. She coughs up blood before shakily trying to get up only to fall on her back once again. Ravager, on the other hand, approached Arashikage and shook her head slightly at what occurred. "By any chance, Kage, did your mentors ever mention the word restraint when you trained?" she asked the blonde ninja, who rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "I thought I did pretty well holding back against a regular human," he said back while she shook her head. "I worry about you sometimes," she mutters while he goes and collects his gear, and then they walk towards Shiva, who is breathing slowly in order to get her bearings before turning her attention to Arashikage. "It would appear that you are the victor, so go ahead and end it," she said before closing her eyes, waiting for the inevitable. Naruto said nothing, but then crouches down and places his hands over her torso, and they glow green. Shiva feels an odd sensation, and then opens her eyes to see the blonde healing her ribs and internal organs. "You're healing me? Why?" she asks. "Despite the stories you've heard about me, Lady Shiva, I'm not all that dangerous. I may have been trained to kill my enemies, but I draw the line when it comes to murder," he answered back, as he continued to heal her injuries while she blinked in confusion. "I don't understand. I came at you with the intent to end your life." She started getting a chuckle from Ravager. "Trust me when I tell Shiva that Arashikage will probably be the strangest person you'll ever meet, but he does things for a reason," she remarks before he finishes healing the female assassin. "There, your ribs are mended, and your organs are functioning properly. but I would advise you to stay off your feet for a few days so that they can heal," he suggests before holding a hand out. She looks at it for a few seconds before grabbing it, and he pulls her up on her feet. "Well, it was fun while it lasted, ma'am, but it's time and I vanished, so farewell." With that, he placed his hand on Ravager's shoulder, and they vanished in a gust of wind. 2 days later, Naruto's apartment complex. Naruto opens his eyes, as the sun rays shine down on his face, and groans, "Stupid sun," he mutters before hearing a feminine moan, and looks down to see Rose snuggling against him with her head rested on his chest. Naruto sighs, and looks back up at the ceiling for a while before carefully removing her arms from around his waist, hearing her moan in complaint before placing a pillow which she snuggles against while he heads out the room, and into the kitchen. "Hey Naruto," said a female voice that was sitting on a couch, reading a novel with her legs crossed. "Hey Jade," Naruto mutters back, as he enters the kitchen while Jade smirks, and picks up a mug of hot tea, and sips it before setting it down. A few seconds later, he pokes his head out the door to see the former member of the Shadows still sitting in the same spot. "Jade, why pray tell you are here?" he asked. She looked out at him with a smile plastered on her face. "You left the window unlocked, so I decided to make myself at home here." Naruto on the other hand raised an eyebrow at this. "I thought you moved back in with your mom and little sister," he wondered. "I did, but I like coming to yours and Rose's place. The TV here is bigger than the one we have." She started getting a sweat drop from the blonde. "Whatever. Want any breakfast?" he offered. "Sure," she answered back before looking up from her book. "By the way, cute boxers, it takes a real man to wear a pair with cute little frogs on them." Naruto blushed at the comment before snorting. "You should be the last person to talk about what patterns I have on my underwear, Mrs. Cheshire Cat," Naruto remarked while Jade blushed lightly. "Shut up and make breakfast, Whiskers," she retorts. Afterwards Rose walks in the living room, yawning, and wearing navy blue sports bras and panties. "Morning Rose." "Morning Jade," she replied back, since this was practically a normal routine that would occur. Jade would somehow get into their apartment and get a free breakfast from them every now and then. "Staying for breakfast again?" she asked. "Yep." "Oh, and you guys are out of milk again," she replied, and Rose groaned in annoyance. "We're out of milk again? Damn it Jade, now I can't make pancakes," Naruto complained, and slammed the refrigerator door shut. Rose giggled at her boyfriend's response before grabbing the remote and switching the TV on. "Hey Rose, in the mood for an omelet?" "Sure, an omelet sounds great," Rose answered. "I like paprika," Jade says. "You get nothing, milk killer," Naruto snapped back, as he poked his head out the room, and glared at her giggling form. "Naruto is nice," Rose chastises. "I'll be nice when she stops sucking down our milk and eating up all our food." "How in the world do you down a jug of milk in one day anyway?" he wondered, and got a shrug from her. "You can chow down over 15 bowls of ramen," she answered back. Afterwards the trio had their breakfast, and then Rose and Jade went to get changed into their civilian clothes while Jade waited for them. "So Rose, are we still gonna head out and do some shopping?" she asked, and Rose nodded. "Yep, is Artemis gonna come along?" Rose asked Jade. "No, she wants to spend the day with Mom since they've got a lot of catching up to do after she's been released from prison," Jade replied before looking down at the floor with a frown on her face, and her expressions were mixed between anger, rage, hate, as well as sorrow and regret. Rose notices this, and walks over to the couch, sitting next to Jade, and places a hand on her shoulder. "You know your mother doesn't blame you for what occurred after she was sent away, right? And Artemis has forgiven you." Rose consoled the former assassin, who sighs sadly, and nods. "Yes, I know, but still," she clenches her fists in her lap, and scowls. "I should have stayed with her, I should have been there to protect her like an older sibling is supposed to, or at least took her with me. But instead I ran away like a coward, and left her behind because I couldn't take another day living with our father." She spat the word out like it was venom. "I left Artemis, my own little sister, at the mercy of that monster," she said before covering her face with the palm of her hand. Rose gave her a one-armed hug in order to comfort her friend. "That may be true, but what matters is that you're back in their lives, Jade, and at least you still have them even if your dad is out of the picture," she states. "At least you have a dad who isn't an ass," Jade replied, getting a chuckle from Rose. "Yeah right, my dad can be a pain in the ass to me, and my brothers, but it's because he always puts us first before anything else. Hell, he went on a rampage during the mission where I lost my left eye from a gunshot," she states when she points to her eye patch with a smirk on her face. "I don't think I've ever seen him that pissed off before, but from that massacre I can see why he gained the name Terminator." Jade chuckled lightly before brushing her hair back. "What about your brothers?" Rose frowned, and folded her arms against her chest. "Pains in the ass? Grant is the worst between him and Jericho. She retorts, and Jade laughs. I'm serious. I think he likes to take time out of his day to piss me off for no reason at all. Jericho can be a jerk too, but he's easier to get along with, she says before looking back at Jade. If you want we could trade siblings. Jade shook her head at Rose's offer. Tempting, but no. I love Artie too much to trade her off. That, and I might kill Grant in his sleep with my sigh. Not if I do first, she mutters before smiling, as Naruto appears between them, and drapes his arms over their shoulders. Thinking about killing Grant again? The guy's okay in my book, Naruto says while Jade rolls her eyes in annoyance. Because he's your pranking partner Whiskers, Jade replied before bringing her hands under his neck, and to his right cheek before brushing them against his whisker marks, which results in him emitting a low purring sound before snapping out of it, and leaping backwards. Stop doing that, Jade, he shouted, getting a giggle from the two, and Naruto glared at his girlfriend. You just had to tell her about my weak spot, Rose. She simply shrugged his glare off, not noticing the evil smile on his face. Maybe I should tell her about your sensitive spot being located near your... His mouth was covered by the palm of her hand, and Rose's face was matching the color of a cherry, and Jade was grinning ear to ear. She does not need to know about our intimate affairs, damn it, she growled out, as she pulled her hand away from her boyfriend, and then looked back at Jade, and raised an eyebrow. Hey Jade, quick question. Yes? Jade asked the white-haired vigilante. I just noticed this before, but you're able to move around a lot easier, especially when Naruto puts those weight seals on you. She states that Naruto was the first to notice, as well. Now that you mention it, Jade has moved a lot faster than she normally does when we team up. Now the blonde was grinning. I'm impressed by Jade. It took Rose here almost half a year to get used to them. Jade on the other hand rubbed the back of her head in embarrassment. Thanks, but to be perfectly honest I forgot I still had those seals on me. And now that you mention it I have been able to move faster than I usually do. You're welcome Jade. Now if you two excuse me I'm gonna go pay a visit to Archer Girl, Naruto said before giving Rose a quick peck on the cheek, and grabbing his South Pole jean jacket, and then noticed the gleam in their eyes. And I'm keeping my charge card with me. That resulted in Rose and Jade deflating. Oh come on Naruto, we're not that bad, Rose protested while said blonde gave her a yes you are look. Plus our shopping spree would barely dent your account, especially with all the money you make on those books you write, she remarks, and Jade's eyes widened and looks back at the blonde. You still write those X-rated books? I thought that was simply a hobby, Jade said while Naruto shrugged. Hey, they bring in a lot of money. When I first wrote them I was as shocked as Rose was when the editor offered me 500 grand for the rough draft of the book, and 500 more after the final versions were printed, he replied to the blinking 19-year-old Asian American. Are you serious? A bewildered Jade asked, and got a nod. Yeah, you should have seen Yuriko's reaction. She practically fainted when I showed her how many zeros were on the check, though she was peeved when she found out I was the author of those Ika books. I had to hightail it out of there when she pulled a Bakken out, and went samurai on me. He rubbed his ribs in phantom pain, and from that day I regret teaching her katas. Rose here actually threw one of her blades at my head. That's because you based a character off of me in that smut, she growled out. They're not smut, they're art. Besides, Jade secretly reads them when she thinks no one notices, he replied back, and Jade actually blushed deeply at his statement, while Rose looked at her in disbelief. Well, that's my cue to go. Have fun shopping, he said, and vanished from the building. Jade explained. Rose demanded. Explain what? I like the books though, I'm gonna get Artemis since she's the only one who knows I read them, she mutters before getting up and dusting off her jeans. Come on, there's a sale at JCPenney, and there are a pair of shoes I've been dying to get my hands on, she said, and before Rose could say something, Jade had pulled her off the couch and dragged her out of the building. Apartment complex, Croc residence. Artemis Croc was currently in the living room inspecting her trick arrows for any flaws. Artemis is a half Caucasian and half Vietnamese, 17-year-old teenage girl with long blonde hair in a ponytail and dark gray eyes. She often keeps her hair tied back and is wearing a white top with a brown jacket with the sleeves rolled up, and dark blue jeans with black knee-high boots and small, round black earrings. Around her neck was a necklace that had a symbol of a whirlpool connected to the chain. As she worked on her arrows, she heard a knock from the door. Artemis, could you get that? Her mother called out from the back room. Got it, Mom, she called out, rising on her feet and getting the kinks out of her back. She made it to the door and looked out the peephole, but then took a step back with a grin on her face and opened the door to reveal a smirking Naruto. Hey Ruto, Artemis said happily, getting a chuckle from the blonde. Hello to you too, Art, Naruto greeted back before hugging his fellow blonde who returned it, and she blushed slightly when she felt the muscles on his chest and arms before letting him in. That was when Paula Croc, Artemis's mother, entered the living room in her wheelchair. Artemis, who was it at the when she turned her gaze at Naruto, eyes brightened up when she saw him wave back. "Naruto, come here, and give me a hug, young man," she said with a grin on her face, and he did so. "Hey Mrs. Croc, you're looking awesome today. Did you do something new with your hair?" he asked, as he ended the hug. "Oh stop," she said with a flattered expression on her face. "Oh please," Artemis muttered. "By any chance, Naruto, have you seen my sister?" "Yes, she snuck into my place this morning, killing the milk and my electricity," he answered in a simple manner, and Paula sighs while brushing her hair back. "Sometimes I worry about that girl," she muttered. "Oh, it's fine, I just wish I knew how she is able to down a jug of milk a day," he pondered. "That's because Jade loves milk just as much as you love ramen," Artemis answered. "Don't compare that instant noodle crap to what I eat. It's nothing but flavored noodles and water," Naruto retorts, and Artemis rolls her eyes in annoyance, but smiles. "So why are you here, Naruto?" she asked, as they walked in the living room and sat down on the couch. "To get away from Rose and Jade while they go shopping for the day," Naruto answered back. "I'm surprised they didn't drag you along," Artemis states, since Jade would try the same thing with her whenever she went out on one of her daily shopping sprees. So throughout half of the day, Naruto simply stayed with Artemis and Paula. The sun was setting, and Artemis was sitting in her room bored before hearing the door open up, and turned around to see a smirking Naruto. "You're still here?" she asked, and got a nod from the blonde. "Yeah, though I was thinking since the sun is starting to set, and Rose and Jade aren't back from shopping, I was thinking you and I could do a little vigilante outing," he offered, and Artemis raised a brow. "Seriously?" she asked, and again he nodded. She then hopped off her bed and stretched her arms out. "Sounds fun, I could use the exercise." "Awesome, meet me on the rooftop once you're suited up," he said before vanishing from the doorway. Artemis makes her way to the closet and opens it, revealing a green outfit with a mask, as well as several different bows and arrows, as well as a utility belt, and she grins. Naruto was standing on the rooftop garbed in his Arashikage outfit with his arms folded before hearing a set of feet land on the roof, and he turned around to see Artemis garbed in her vigilante outfit. She wore a green mask, green top with a green arrow on the front, green fingerless gloves, green pants that are covered with black knee pads, and black boots. She has a black utility belt, and a black pouch strapped on her left leg that is no doubt filled with assorted tools, and carries a quiver along her back with a bow and arrows. "Nice outfit, never took you as a green arrow fanatic," Naruto teased, causing Artemis to scoff at his jab. "Are we gonna go kick some criminal? But or what? I have a curfew, you know," she retorts. Naruto chuckles and nods. "Relax, will ya? The night is young," he assured her before they both leapt off the roof. Downtown of Gotham City. "Hurry up, and put the money in the bag, old man," a masked robber yelled, as he pointed a 9mm pistol at the head of a frightened cashier of a mini-market who was scrambling to get the money out of the register and into a black sack. As he succeeded in doing so, the mugger snatched the sack out of the man's hand and proceeded to run out of the door, only for a projectile to fly through the door and knock the sack out of his hand and get pinned to the wall, and the projectile proved to be an arrow. "What the?" the crook wondered, and as he turned around he was now face to face with Arashikage, who simply stared down at the surprised thug who attempted to aim his gun at the blonde, but Kage simply slapped it out of his hand. The thug stumbles back from the move, and is struck down by a chop to the back of his neck before vanishing again. Afterwards, a couple were backing away from several street punks who were wielding crowbars and switchblades, and approaching them with evil smirks on their faces, as they were about to advance, and Kanai landed in between them, which confused them at first before it exploded into a smoke screen, causing the group to cough and rub the smog from their eyes until Artemis leapt out of the smoke screen and delivered an aerial kick to the first thug's jaw and sent him crashing into the ground hard. She didn't stop there, as she took this opportunity to beat down the remaining ones with a combined series of punches, counterattacks, and kicks. The last one attempts to slash at her face with a knife, only for Artemis to kick the knife out of his hands, and uses her compact bow as a melee weapon, and strikes him across the head hard enough to knock him out. "Now that was brutal," Arashikage commented, as he walked out of the shadows. Artemis on the other hand shrugs with a smile on her face. "Thanks. I try not to be as gentle with low-life trash," she comments. "Come on Arashikage, let's stop playing with the small fry, and find a challenge. I could use a good adrenaline rush." Her fellow blonde on the other hand chuckles. "As you wish, Arrowette," he replied before motioning for her to follow him to their next destination. Arashikage was sitting on a pile of beaten, broken, and bloody thugs, and watched Artemis beat down the remaining ones. "Are you done yet?" he asked the archer, who delivered an upper kick to a guy's chin and sent him crashing into a crate. "Almost," Artemis calls out before spotting one thug trying to make a run for it, and attempts to draw an arrow from her quiver, only for Kaiget to appear in front of the man, and clotheslines him without budging from his spot, and crashes into the ground hard. "Too slow, archer girl. I give you an 8 for the beat down, but a 4 for letting one almost get away," he chastised before stepping over the guy's chest and approaching the fuming blonde. "Well, excuse me for not being a super ninja. What time is it anyway?" she asked her fellow blonde, who looked at his watch. 10 minutes till 11. Why?" he asked Artemis, and her eyes widened in shock and fear. "Crap, mom's gonna kill me. Stupid 11 o'clock curfews," she cried out, "and we're at the docks. There's no way we can get to my place unless," she froze up from the gleam in his eye, and slightly backed away. "Oh no, not gonna happen. The last time we teleported to my place with your hygiene technique, I thought my insides were gonna shoot out of my mouth. It's Hiroshinardi, and it's the only option." So with that he grabbed her arm before they both vanished in a flash of yellow. They suddenly appear in Artemis's and Jade's room. She was about to yell at Naruto until a sickening look appeared on her face, and she bolted for the bathroom. Naruto chuckles as he hears her lose her lunch. Paula rolls down the hall in her wheelchair and notices Naruto, who pulls down his mask, turning his attention to the former assassin before waving and vanishing again. As Naruto appeared in the complex, he saw Jade curled up on the couch sleeping soundly in a dark green nightgown, and slowly crept past her sleeping form. He slowly opened the door to the room he and Rose shared, and saw her sleeping soundly on the bed in a white short-sleeved midriff shirt and blue shorts. After he takes off his gear, he slips into the bed in a pair of black pajama pants, and scoots close to Rose's body. He wraps his arms around her bare torso, and gently pulls her body close to his, hearing the white-haired girl moan in content from the warmth that radiated from his body, and he gently kisses her on the cheek. "Did you have fun shopping?" he asked his girlfriend. "Sure did," she answered back, as she placed her arm over the ones around her waist. "Have fun playing vigilante with Artemis?" "It was a dead night, and the only fun around was a couple of street thugs," he answered back before inhaling her scent. "So I take it Jade is spending the night?" Rose nodded. "Yep. But she'll be heading back home early in the morning," she replied before twisting her body around and snuggling against his chest. "Oh, and Yuriko sent me a text message saying the family cruise would end at the 1st of August, and told me she'd be docking in Happy Harbor, Rhode Island that day. That's great. Hopefully she brought me back a souvenir from one of the islands she went to." He joked, and got a chuckle from her before they both fell asleep. Watchtower. At the computer terminal, Batman was sitting in front of the holographic screen, trying to search the file under Arashikage with calculative eyes, and was reading the current info on it. Arashikage. Real name, unknown. Age, late teens. Place of birth, unknown. Height, 6 feet 3 inches. Weight, 195 pounds. Powers and abilities. Master hand-to-hand combatant. Weapons master. Stealth. Augment speed, strength, reflexes, and agility through unknown means, and also manipulate the natural elements. The extent of these abilities are unknown. The Dark Knight frowned at the lack of info he had on this unknown assassin. From the database, he was responsible for the deaths of several major global drug and crime lords, as well as destroyed several major smuggling operations ranging from illegal weapons drops, drug transporting, and slave transfers, and is feared greatly throughout the criminal underworld for his methods of justice, and has been targeted by a few criminal organizations like the League of Shadows, Cult of the Cobra, and Intergang, as well as the Yakuza, Triads, and Mafia. Each has placed a huge bounty on his head, especially Lord Cobra, due to the fact that when the man encountered the blonde ninja, he ended up losing one of his arms during their encounter. Batman continued to stare at the visage of the anti-hero, and couldn't help but wonder how he was able to stay hidden from the League for the last few years, and what made the matter tough were his abilities. Meanwhile, Green Arrow walked in the monitor room before stopping beside the cowl-wearing hero. "Still trying to gather info on this Arashikage character, Bats?" Green Arrow asked the Dark Knight, who said nothing. "Good luck with that, man. I've been trying to get info on this guy myself, and still got nothing. Not even a place of origin or family background. Whoever this guy is, he's a pro at hiding his identity and bases of operation, but what surprises me is how some people, police included, have no problems with his methods of dealing with the big fish, especially in Bloodhaven, which was more crime-infested than Gotham." Batman merely grunted in agreement due to the fact that Bloodhaven went through a major clean-up ordeal in the last 3 years, and the crime rates in the city went down greatly due to either the deaths or imprisonments of the crime bosses and corrupt members of the federal department. But there still was crime in the city, it wasn't major. If you want my opinion, I would cut this guy loose since he isn't technically harming anyone minus the bad guys, of course. Jade advised, only to be on the receiving end of a glare by Batman. Are you telling me you approve of his methods? Because if so, Batman paused with an edged tone. Whoa, easy there, B. I'm not agreeing with him, or anything, it's just that, well, take the Red Hood for example. He tried to reason, but cringed when he saw the man's eyes narrow even more. Okay, wrong choice, well there is, or how about, you know what? I've got nothing. Despite his cause being for the greater good, he's still a threat, and could become even worse than Red Hood, Batman said, as he looked back at the screen while Archer sighs in defeat. Well, good luck with that, he said before turning around and leaving. With Naruto. The blonde heir of the Rikudo Senin was at a local gym with Rose, Artemis, and Jade, who were on a training mat working on their martial arts skills while he was sparring with Rose. He was about to deliver a palm strike to her torso only to sneeze and miss. Rose took this opportunity to grab his wrist, spin around, and perform a judo flip that sent him flying over her head and crashing onto the other side of the mat. Ow, he said before she approached him and crouched down. You alright? She asked Naruto, who responded by flipping back onto his feet. She had her hair tied into a high ponytail and wore a gray sleeveless top with black sweatpants with green and white Reebok running shoes. Yeah, I'm fine, just a simple sneeze. Wonder who's talking about me? He wondered. Jade was wearing a dark green tank top with matching shorts and green and white running shoes. Artemis wore a dark blue short-sleeved shirt with gray sweats and simple white running shoes, and they were both in a grappling match, growling at each other, struggling to outmatch the other in strength. Come on, little sis, is that all you've got? She challenged me. You wish. Artemis retorts before she slips her foot behind Jade's heel and knocks it off balance. Jade stumbles a little, and Artemis takes this opportunity to flip her over and slams her into the ground before pinning her on the ground. Ha! I won! Jade simply scoffs and smiles. That's because I let you, she retorts before Artemis gets off of her and helps her sister up. Jerk, she muttered while folding her arms under her chest while Jade wrapped an arm around her younger sibling. Ah, you know you love me, baby sister, she teased, as she gave Artemis a one-armed hug before setting her gaze on Naruto and Rose sparring again. You've got to admit, Artie, Naruto is something else, isn't he? Jade asked Artemis. The female blonde blinked a few times as she looked back at a smiling Jade and then at Naruto, who was evading or blocking Rose's punches and kicks. Yeah, he is. Too bad he's with Rose, or I'd definitely ask him out, Artemis replied while Jade grins. It was no secret to her that Artemis had a mad crush on Naruto, and she couldn't blame her. She developed a thing for him after she defected from the shadows and protected her from Sports Master and treated her injuries while keeping her hidden while she recovered. That was when Jade realized something, and her grin grew. You know, sis, Rose informed me of something interesting regarding Naruto. She informed her sister. Artemis looked back at Jade in curiosity as she saw her grin. And what would that be? She asked. Well, you know how Naruto is from another dimension where he lived in a world of ninja, right? She asked, and got a nod from her. Well, she also mentioned something about there being clans that existed in his world that possessed genetic traits called or bloodline limits. In a way, they're kind of like meta-humans. Artemis took in the explanation before raising an eyebrow. Where are you going with this, Jade? She asked her grinning sister, who giggled. And Artemis knew Jade was not the type of girl to giggle unless it was something that intrigued her person. You're gonna love this part. You see, sis, whenever a male member of these bloodline clans are the last of their kin, they are entitled to an act called the Clan Restoration Rights. It is a system the government in his world created in order to make sure that a clan on the brink of extinction doesn't go extinct. And so she paused for a few minutes and spoke up again. The last male of the clan is entitled to take on several wives to ensure that the clan is repopulated. That final caused Artemis's eyes to bug out and her jaw to slightly drop as she looked at Jade's giggling form. Say what? Are you serious? The bewildered girl asked. Jade giggled even more and nodded vigorously. Yep, and the kicker to this is that he's the last of 3 clans instead of 1 like most of them are. I don't like where this is going, Jade, the nervous blonde stated, as she saw the mischievous glint in Jade's dark gray eyes, and her eyes widened. Wait, you're not thinking of joining his clan, are you? The eldest sibling simply shrugged. I mean, come on, Artemis, guys like Naruto are extremely rare, and I would be crazy not to consider what type of guy he is. Artemis was still gobsmacked by what she learned. But to be one of his wives, Jade? She asked. That won't happen for a while, little sister, and it doesn't have to happen now, for goodness sake, Jade assured her sister, who still looked skeptical about it. But still, what about Rose? Is she cool with this? Artemis had to ask before she heard someone being pinned on the ground, and saw Naruto on top of Rose's panting form smiling triumphantly. We talked, and she said it would be interesting to say the least, especially to see how Naruto can handle more than one girlfriend. She told me the offer was still up for grabs, but wanted me to be discreet about my final decision. I'm all for it, she explained. Artemis remained quiet for a while before speaking up. And me? She asked Jade, who shrugged. It's all up to you, Atremus. No one's gonna force you to be with him if you don't want to. Besides, I don't have a problem sharing, especially with my sister of all people. Plus, from what Rose tells me, Naruto is a stamina freak, if you get my meaning. Jade wiggled her brows, as an emphasis for what she meant, and Artemis blushed greatly. You mean they? Jade nods once again, and now Artemis' whole face glows red. That was when Naruto and Rose walked towards the two. Hey you guys, after we all got cleaned up and changed, we were gonna check that new Italian restaurant. Rose spotted the other, and wanted to know if he wanted to join. Naruto paused when he saw Jade's grinning face, and a red Artemis, and raised his eyebrow. Why does Artemis's head look like it's gonna explode, Jade? He asked the eldest of the two. Oh, nothing you need to fret over, Naruto, she said innocently, but Rose on the other hand noticed the twinkling in her friend's eyes, and chuckled to herself. Night. Warehouse. A large cargo truck was in the process of being unloaded by some hired grunts who appeared to be unloading crates full of drugs, and loading them into several smaller moving trucks. Watching them was a Caucasian male dressed in an expensive red suit with a black dress shirt that was left with an unbuttoned collar. As he watched the cargo being loaded into the different truck, one of his hired gunmen approached him. Hey JD, do you think this is a good idea? JD looked back at the grunt. What are you talking about? Of course it is, he retorted with an annoyed look on his face. Just wondering because, well, some of the guys have been feeling frantic since we started on this shipment. The grunt answered back. If it's the Batman you're worried about, then don't be. He's on the other side of Gotham dealing with those nut jobs and freaks from Arkham. JD assured the lackey. It's not him I'm worried about, it's the boss, it's the other guy. You've heard of Arashikage, right? He asked his boss, who nodded in a bored fashion. Yeah, I've heard about him. Some ninja wannabe are responsible for the deaths of several major crime lords. So? He asked. So? Sir, this guy is no laughing matter. He has no qualms killing guys like us, boss. I even heard that he came close to taking out Cobra a few years back. The guy got away with one of his arms removed. The grunt explained. TCH, I hope he does come. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a golden desert eagle. That way I can blow his damn head off and make some extra cash off his corpse, JD remarked with a grin on his face. Outside the warehouse, Cheshire was standing on the edge of a roof not too far from the warehouse where the shipments were being loaded, with what appeared to be a compact bow slung over her shoulder. She then draws it out along with a trick arrow where the head appears to be larger than a normal one, and takes aim at the truck in the middle. It's now or never, she said before releasing the arrow. It descended towards the truck in the middle, and once it hit the front of the hood, a fiery explosion occurred, causing those nearby to either get engulfed in the flames or sent flying by the shock wave, screaming in agony or surprise. JD and the others had to protect themselves from the debris with their arms, and the gunman looked around frantically for the perp who blew up the truck. Before JD could demand who was responsible for what happened, several more trucks exploded in a similar fashion. What the hell? He screamed. One of the gunmen was backing away in fear in the darkened part of the building, only for a chain to shoot out of the shadows and ensnare him by the neck. He choked out before being dragged into the shadows. Several more met the same fate and disappeared through the darkness. JD, on the other hand, was carefully making his way around the flaming room, trying to find a way out. He noticed one of the emergency doors and started to run towards it. As he did, one of the gunmen came crashing through the double doors and landed on the ground hard, looking like he had the life beaten out of him. JD looked up at the door, and his eyes widened in fear as he saw Arashikage standing in front of his only escape path. Knock, knock, the blonde ninja said, as the man pointed his weapon at him shakily. Stay back, monster, or we'll find out if you're bulletproof, he threatened with fear laced in his voice. Arashikage just stood, but under his mask, a smirk was on his face. Is that so? Well then, let's test a theory I just came up with. He slowly drew a kunai from under his sleeve and focused a little wind chakra into it. Which of our mid-ranged weapons has the fastest reaction? Your bullet? Or my blade? He asked in a tone that sent shivers down the man's spine. His trigger finger trembled as he pulled it back. Go ahead, pull the trigger, I dare you, he challenged in a calm tone. JD grits his teeth in anger before taking aim. Die, he screamed, and was about to fire, but Arashikage was faster. He flung the wind-enhanced kunai at the man, and the next thing JD knew, He was screaming out in pain due to the fact that the projectile not only cut through his weapon, but took off 3 of his fingers, and blood sprayed from the finger stumps. He clutched his bleeding limb in pain, and fell on one knee until he gurgled out when a hand wrapped around his throat and hoisted him into the air. "Let's take this outside," Kage insisted. A wind vortex swirls around them, and they vanish from the sight. Rooftop. "Look man, I'm telling you I'm just a simple buyer, I swear," the frantic buyer cried, as Arashikage dangled him over the roof of a building. "Don't lie to me. I have informants that have seen you buying truckloads of cocaine and heroin that were being transported to several different areas of Gotham, with it mainly being in the slums of the city. Now you either tell me who is the guy ordering the imports of these drugs, or you're gonna get acquainted with the pavement." He made his point across by releasing his grip from the guy's collar. As Jade screams in horror from the fact that he was gonna ascend several stories from the building, but Arashikage grabs his wrist and keeps him hovering into the air. Please man, I just can't. If I rat out my boss, he'll have my head on a pike by nightfall," the blabbering buyer states with fear in his eyes, but then whimpers as his interrogator loosens his grip. "What do you fear more? Meeting your end in 5.6 seconds, or having the real buyer send his thugs off you for snitching before the sun sets?" the blonde asked, as he pulled his finger out. Tears started to form in his eyes, and he started to pee his pants. "Please don't make me tell you man. This guy is not some run-of-the-mill mobster, he's a kingpin, he's even bigger than Falcone. Do you know what he does to guys like me? He'll know man, he always knows. He's got more connections than I could ever imagine. This is not the guy you want to piss off," he begged until he was looking directly into the cold glacial eyes of the ninja. "Neither am I. You've heard the stories about what I'm capable of, have you not? I make the boogeyman look like a toddler, and the worst of criminals tremble in fear at the mention of my name. I'm something far worse than Batman or Deathstroke could ever be, as I have no qualms ending your life," he said icily. "So do you feel like talking now?" JD remained quiet, and continued to whimper and feel before gulping. He was about to speak, but Arashikage threw him on the rooftop, and without looking caught a black projectile that was in the shape of a bat. "So the Bat of Gotham has decided to crash the party, huh?" the ninja asked calmly while Batman landed before him with a frown on his face. "That is, as far as Arashikage," the Dark Knight states, as his cape blew in the wind. That was when Robin landed beside his mentor. "Well, would you look at this?" he brought the kid with. "Say, where is the redhead of your group? I like her," he wondered. "School night, you know how it is," Robin answered with a smirk on his face. "Then shouldn't you be in bed too, Junior?" Erasure chastised, and Robin started to sputter for a little while before he settled with glaring, "Shut up. Don't think that just because you and Ravager helped us out in Cadmus doesn't mean you're getting away. I heard that there was a vacant cell in Arkham waiting for you," Robin remarked before he pulled out a few. "As nice as the gesture is, I think I'll take a rain check. So are we gonna do this the easy way or hard way?" he asked the dynamic duo. "What do you think?" Robin remarked, as he got into a fighting stance. "I would love nothing more than to fight you both at the same time, but I don't think my partner would like to be left out." "Oh Cheshire," he called out. Robin blinked for a few seconds before a black blur struck him across the face and sent him flying backwards. He manages to plant his hands on the ground and spring back on his feet, and looks up to see Cheshire twirling a sigh in her hand. Batman pulls out a batarang and is about to aid his partner, only for Erasure to appear in front of him, wagging his finger at the shocked man. "Don't even think about it, Batsy," he said before swatting the batarang out of the man's hand with a horizontal chop, and performing a spin kick that the cowl-clad hero rolls under, and jumps back on his feet, and gets into a fighting stance. "So you're an ally of the shadows?" he questioned, only for Erasure to scoff. "Please don't make me laugh. Cheshire left that group of second-class assassins a long time ago, and sometimes teams up with me and Ravager from time to time. You should update your info like a real spy master would," he chastised, but got no form of reaction from the man. "Okay, since Cheshire's playing with the little bird, I might as well join along and guard Dark Knight." Both the Dark Knight of Gotham and Ultimate Ninja were staring at the other intently, waiting for the first person to make a move. "You know Batman, you and I aren't so different." Arashikage first talked while Batman narrowed his eyes. "I don't take lives," Batman remarked, as he flexed his hand. "You make it sound like I'm endangering innocent people, and last time I checked, crime lords aren't innocent, and neither are their hired goons or some of the psychos that are residing in Arkham," he stated. "Some of those psychos have a chance at redemption, a chance to change," Batman informed the ninja, who to his surprise agreed. "Yes, some of them do. But what about the ones who can't listen to reason? Guys like Scarecrow, Joker, Two-Face, Zash, Mad Hatter, they are the real threat to society. They can't be redeemed," Arashikage answered, as he too flexed his hands. "And who are you to decide that?" Batman snapped back. "I can ask you the same thing. How many people have lost their lives or loved ones to those people, and yet all they get is a slap on the wrist? You think that by throwing them in solitude for a few days will make them open their eyes to reality? You're a fool," he chastised. "Better a fool than a murderer," Batman remarked before pulling out a batarang and throwing the projectile at his opponent, who easily evaded it by stepping to the left, and Batman dashed at him with his fist cocked back. "He's got some speed," Naruto commented before he blocked the fist with his palm, and then jumped back, as he attempted to hit him with a roundhouse kick, some being the keyword, he thought, as Batman went on the assault while Erasure dodged, blocked, or weaved around his moves in a fluid-like fashion. Robin, on the other hand, was facing off against Cheshire by throwing 3 at her, but she deflected them with one side before somersaulting backwards and landing on her feet. "Come on, kitten, I thought your shadows were supposed to be tough," Robin taunted before dashing at her. He leaps into the air and performs an aerial kick that she blocks with her forearm, and then catches his ankle as he attempts to heel kick her in the ribs, but she easily flips him over her shoulder. "I'm an ex-Shadow Boy wonder, and should you be worried about your partner?" she asked before dashing after him, drawing her second sigh and leaping into the air. Robin draws out 2 eskrima sticks and uses them to block her attack. "Batman can handle himself, you should worry more about your partner," he remarked before breaking the stalemate, and attempts to hit her with a horizontal strike, but she hops back before ducking, and does a leg sweep at his ankles, which the boy wonder dodges before pulling out a smoke pellet and throws it at the ground, causing a smoke screen to appear in front of her. "A smoke screen? How original," she says before leaping into it to catch her quarry. Erasure, on the other hand, ducks from a right punch that was combined with a high kick, which he blocked while he still kept his gaze on the Dark Knight. "I'll admit, Batman, you're good," he informed the black-clad vigilante before, in a flash of speed that surprised Batman, Arashikage struck him hard in the torso with a fast and powerful palm strike, and sends him sailing backwards and into a brick wall, leaving an imprint of his form embedded into the wall. Batman groaned in pain before looking up to see Arashikage staring at him. "But I'm better," the blonde ninja finished. Batman frowns as he gets back on his feet and throws 2 more at him. On the other hand, cuts them down with a trench knife, like the ones Asuma uses, in a blur, leaving his arm outstretched, revealing his weapon that gleamed in the moonlight. Batman then throws a barrage at his quarry, who easily moves around them before cutting a few down. He then flips backwards into the air, avoiding the remaining ones, and then lands on the edge of the rooftop. "Nowhere to run," Batman states, on the other hand smirks under his mask. "Who said I was running? Follow me if you dare," Erasure challenges. Batman's eyes widened as he saw him lean backwards and drop off the edge of the roof and move at neck-break speed at the edge. He looks down to see Erasure free falling down with his coat fluttering in the wind, and he doesn't appear to be falling like most would, but instead floats down onto a smaller building. He looked up at Batman and made a come-on gesture with his hand. Batman responds to the challenge by pulling out his grappling gun and fires the bat hook that gets embedded into the wall of a building before taking off. Arashikage watches it for a few seconds before turning around and dashes across the rooftop. Batman soon lands in the spot Naruto was in and takes off after him. He watches Erasure leap and easily land onto another rooftop, and he follows, but is having a slightly difficult time, as the ninja was moving a lot faster than any other human would. Erasure then leaps off the last tall building and descends towards the window of an abandoned building and crashes through it feet first. Batman mimics Arashi's action and descends into the hole of the window before landing into the darkened area. He stands up fully and sets his sights on the blonde ninja, who remains in a calm state. "Let's see how good you are when you face me in my element, Dark Knight," he challenged before stepping backwards into the shadows. Batman narrowed his eyes as he walked into the area that was mostly covered in shadows, keeping his senses on high alert for any form of sound or movement. His instincts were telling him to tread carefully, for his new opponent was dangerous, and not a Joker level or Darkseid level dangerous. Arashikage was on a whole different level, and he could feel it. He could feel the adrenaline in his body flowing full force. His years of honing his physical and mental capabilities to near human perfection put him on edge, and his heartbeat was beating a little faster than it usually did. He never felt this much anxiety on his person ever. Not even to guys like Bane, Joker, Ra's al Ghul, or any other person. Batman knew right then and there that he would be in for a fight that even he doubted he would walk off in one piece. Meanwhile, crash! Robin was kicked through a broken window into an abandoned warehouse. He barreled over a few times before hitting a wall. Cheshire, on the other hand, lands before him with a bored expression. "You know I'm disappointed. I expected a much better fight from you, kid," being the apprentice of Batman, and all, sigh. Oh well, it was fun while it lasted, but I think I'm gonna end this little game of cat and mouse. Robin gritted his teeth in pain, as he staggered back onto his feet. I'm not done yet, he replied before throwing it at her. She simply tilted her head to the side, and shook her head in amusement, as he rushed at her again. He leaps up, and attempts a knee strike, but she blocks it with her palm. He lands back down on the ground, and tries to knock her off her feet with a leg sweep, which she simply brings one leg up, and finally, using his agility to his advantage, performs a spin kick to her head. Cheshire easily catches his foot, and hits him in the chest with a kick to the chest. Robin flips backwards, and lands skidding back a few feet, but then cries out in surprise when he feels something sharp prick his neck. He pulled out, and his eyes widened in horror. Poison, he said to himself while Cheshire shook her head. Close, but no, it's simply a neurotoxin that instantly slows the activity of the person's nervous system and brain function, but that's not all it does. Robin's vision started to act up, and was now seeing 4 of her. You'll feel sluggish at first before having a slight hallucination for a few seconds before your body function slows down until you collapse, which will happen right about. Thump. Now, sweet dreams, little bird, she finished. After Robin remains motionless for a few seconds, she picks him up and hoists him over her shoulder. Arashikage probably had a good old time playing with the Dark Knight, she pondered before exiting the warehouse. Right now, Batman continues on his search for the ninja in the abandoned building. He hears something that sounds like scratching, and spins around, throwing a batarang at the source. As it hits, a rat squeaks, and scampers out of the pile of bricks. He relaxes, and makes his way around the shadows until his instincts went on full alert, as a volley of shuriken descended from the shadows, and towards him. He leaps backwards into the air, and lands on a ceiling joist, but was then forced to leap off of it, as several glowing chains, yes folks, Kushina's chakra chains, shoot out of the shadows, and wrapped around the beam. But then one of them went right for Batman, which had a razor-sharp spear head on the end of it. He twisted his body, and the sharp end merely grazed his cheek before he landed back on the ground. Impressive, very few people, whether they're normal or metahuman, could avoid my chakra chains, Arashikage said, as he projected his voice throughout the area. Perhaps this fight won't be so boring after all. You talk, as if you've already won this fight, Batman states, as he has a batarang ready. Because I have a Dark Knight. If I wanted to, I could have ended this fight a long time ago. But what would be the fun in doing that? Arashikage replied, as his foe took in his surroundings. Batman spun around, and threw a batarang at Arashikage's form, which struck him, but to his surprise he exploded into a puff of smoke. He suddenly ducks, as a kunai slashed over his head before roundhouse kicking the ninja in the chest, sending him into a support beam, but like last time poofs away in a torrent of smoke. I told you before, Batman, I do my best work in the shadows, the blonde informed his foe. Batman reaches into his utility belt, and pulls out a cylindrical-like device. Then let's bring you into the light, Batman insisted before throwing the device down on the ground, and the entire place was engulfed in a blinding light around the area, killing every single shadow. Arashikage's form is revealed, and he uses his forearm to protect his eyes from the light. He slightly squints his eyes before a shadow descends on his person. Pain erupts on his jaw, as he was punched in the jaw by the Dark Knight, and crashes onto the ground, but flips back on his feet. Batman lands on the ground, and rushes at him with a haymaker, but Erasure leaps over him, using the man's shoulder as a spring, and lands behind him. Batman uses his reflexes in order to deliver a reversal backhand at the blonde, who suddenly vanished like a flash, and Batman was struck by a mid-kick to his back, and sent crashing onto the floor. He winces from the throbbing pain in his back before getting back up. I've got to admit, I actually felt that punch, but sadly I felt worse, Arashikage commented, as he rubbed his throbbing jaw while Batman analyzed the man, wondering how he was able to move so fast in such a small spot. How were you able to move so fast? Batman wondered. Wouldn't you like to know? He said before drawing a tri-pronged kunai, and chucking it at the man. Batman simply tilted his head, as it passed by only for Erasure to appear behind him with the same knife at his throat. Batman froze in his tracks, as he felt the cold steel on his neck. This would have ended all dark heroes, Erasure said in an icy tone. Then why don't you? Batman challenged, and got a chuckle in return. Because that would prove that I'm only a cold-blooded killer, which I'm not. I kill when I have to, and not when I want to. That's what separates me from the true villains, Naruto answers back before he poofs away, much to Batman's surprise. Besides, I'm a ninja. We don't understand the boundaries of good and evil, protectors of Gotham. You may have had some training by the ninja in your dimension, but if we were in my world, you wouldn't last a day. Naruto suddenly appeared before Batman with his palm aimed at the man's torso. Futon, Uke's shadow, wind release, Gale's shot. Before Batman realized it, he was sent soaring across the building by a blast of wind which felt like he had just got hit by a venom-enhanced bane. He crashes through the brick wall of the building and falls towards the busy streets of Gotham. He manages to pull out a grapple hook and fire it off. It lodges into the side of a building, and he swings towards one of the smaller buildings. He lands, but falls on one knee, and clutches his side, and knows he has a few bruised ribs. He was mentally thanking himself for the enhancements he put in his costume. He then saw Naruto leap out of the hole from the abandoned building, and landed before the cowl-clad hero. Had enough? Arashikage asked, and his answer was Batman throwing several smoke pellets in the ground, creating a smokescreen. I guess not, he said before several shadow clones puff into existence, and leap into the smokescreen where the sound of fighting and smoke puffing could be heard from the real ninja. One clone was sent flying out of the haze, and dispersed, causing Arashikage to sweat drop. Note to self, enhance clones with more chakra. He muttered before the smoke cleared, and Batman looked winded. Wow, tired already? Getting on in age are we? Arashikage taunted the man. That was when Cheshire approached them with Robin slung over her shoulder, and Batman's eyes widened at the sight of his partner in mobile form. Robin! He called out, and narrowed his eyes dangerously. What did you do to him? He growled. Relax, tall, dark, and broody, the baby bird's fine, he's just in La La Land at the moment. Cheshire remarked before tossing the boy Wonder's form at Batman's feet. He should wake up in a few hours, give or take. Aren't you a shadow? He questioned. Ex-shadow. I quit that ordeal a long time ago, she remarked before slinging an arm around the blonde ninja. Besides, I have more fun with this big lug here. Batman glared at the two assassins, and looked down at his partner before picking the boy's form up. We'll meet again, he assured the two before tossing a smoke bomb onto the ground, creating a smoke screen. When it cleared, Batman was gone. Cheshire doesn't take offense to this, but the people in this world who pull ninja stunts kinda suck, Arashikage replied. None taken, too bad your fight against him didn't extend. I wanted to see you use those ninjutsu techniques on him, she says. Half of my arsenal could level a quarter of Gotham, and the really big ones, well, let's just say these nukes you people create look like fireworks compared what I can do if I really let loose, he informed his partner. I'll take your word for it. Now let's get out of here, the draft is killing me. She suggests that Naruto use the leaf shunshin. August 1st, 1237. Happy Harbor, Rhode Island. Naruto was currently standing by the Happy Harbor docking station while the cruise ship pulled up beside it. He was garbed in a civilian outfit which consisted of a white short-sleeved Connie shirt that had two blue stripes going down the sides with a pair of deep blue South Pole jeans with blue and white Nike shoes. He watched as the people on the ship were exiting from the ramp and greeting their family and friends. He smiled when he saw Yuriko and her parents, Kazuma Oyama and Haruka Oyama, exit off the ship. Kazuma was in his 40s due to the slight gray that was in his slicked-back jet black hair, and despite his age, the man had a good build on him due to his military training. He was garbed in a black short-sleeved shirt and pants, as well as a pair of dark gray boots. He appeared to be around Naruto's height, and had a goatee with a few strands of gray on it, and had brown eyes. His wife, Haruka, looked like an older version of her daughter, with the difference being that she had a few wrinkles on her face, and her hair was slightly darker than her daughter's. She wore what looked like a dark pink Hawaiian dress held up by two straps with a pair of red sandals, and hoisted a light brown purse over her shoulder. Yuriko, however, was garbed in an aqua blue sleeveless tank top, and a pair of white hip-hugging shorts that stopped above her knees with blue sandals. She had a pair of shades resting on her forehead, and a white purse slung over her shoulder. She also had her hair tied into a ponytail since she grew it out over the years. She looked around for her blonde surrogate little brother before smiling, as she saw Naruto walking through the crowd. Hey Naruto, she called out, getting the blonde's attention. He turned his head to the direction of where he heard his name, and smiled before approaching her. Hey Nei-chan, he greeted, as he approached the duo. Yuriko was the first to give him a hug, which he returned before her mother walked towards them, and gave the son she always wanted a hug, as well. Oh, look at you, Naruto. You're getting more handsome, as the years pass, Haruka teased, as the blonde rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. That was when Kazuma approached him with the 1,000-yard stare in his eyes, which Naruto returned. Sir, the blonde replied. Boy, Kazuma replied back in a gruff fashion, as they both had a stare down. Yuriko sighs, and her mother shakes her head in amusement. They both grinned, and shook the other's hand. Still got a vice grip for a handshake, sir, Naruto replied, while the man chuckled. The military will do that for you, lad, he informed the blonde. By the way, the offer is still available if you ever want to join Black Ops. Dad, we've been through this, and Naruto is not joining the military. Yuriko chastises, getting a scoff from her father while her mother sighs. Come on, Yuriko, the kid's got the physical and mental capacity for it. His potential is being wasted as a bodyguard, he chastised. Yuriko, on the other hand, rolled her eyes. Dad, he's also a merc, and author of that smut you read, she said, and noticed the blush on his face. Yuriko, it's not smut, it's art. Naruto tried to reason, but was on the end of an icy glare that made him cringe. You know, Naruto, I've improved a lot on those sword basics you taught me. Would you like me to demonstrate them by being my practice dummy when we get home? She asked sweetly, and the blonde shook his head rapidly. I think I'll pass. Cammy, if I knew you were that dangerous with the Bakken, I never would have taught you. You almost cracked 3 of my ribs when you went samurai on me. He rubbed his side, as an emphasis, while her father chuckled. And you wonder why she'll never get a boyfriend, he replied. That's because Naruto always scares my dates off, she said, glaring at Naruto. That's because they're not good enough for you, and most of them only wanted a one-night stand with you, and the last one I beat was near an inch of his life because he was getting too fresh with you, Naruto replied in a nonchalant manner. Yuriko's brow twitched at this. He was going to kiss me on the lips, and you kicked him out the door, she growled out. Well, excuse me for looking out for my sister. I saw his hand going for your ass, and I reacted, he states to his surrogate sibling, puffing his chest out, only for Yuriko to punch him, and he exhales, getting a chuckle from Kazuma and Haruka. Sandbar Cafe. After leaving the docks, the 4 of them headed to the Sandbar Cafe. Yuriko was informing her mother of a project her group was working on while Naruto was listening to Kazuma talk about his days in the Black Ops. As they chatted, they heard screaming from outside, and witnessed several miniature twisters demolishing houses around the area. Everyone clear out of the area. A police officer ordered the citizens who were running around screaming while a bulking red and black android was creating miniature cyclones, fighting off a group of kids who were apparently getting their tails handed to them. Naruto's eyes widened slightly before groaning inwardly. Great, it's the kids again, he mumbles before he vanishes from his seat. Kazuma turns around only to find Naruto gone, and chuckles. I hate when he pulls those ninja stunts, he said before getting to his wife and daughter. Where's Naruto? Haruka asked her husband. Where do you think it is? He asked, and Yuriko smiled before turning her attention to the window, and saw Arashikage flying on top of a giant falcon. The supervillain android who was fighting the young heroes thrust his hands down, and fired a massive bolt of lightning coming down from above, straight towards the group of young heroes. When it hits the ground, it causes a large explosion that sends the group flying backwards, and knocking 4 of them out. Superboy stands back up, and tosses his coat aside, before lunging at Twister. Said droid simply brings his hands up, and strikes him with 2 bolts of lightning that make him cry out in pain, and send him crashing to the ground, joining the other young unconscious heroes. Meanwhile, Mr. Twister descends towards his targets with electricity cackling around his cybernetic arms. Megan was the first to gain consciousness, and her eyes widened when she saw Twister look down at the young heroes' motionless forms, and aim his cannons at the group. So much for future generations of heroes, but don't fret, I'll put you out of your misery. But before he had the chance to do so, a large fireball sailed through the air, and made a direct hit at a surprised Twister who was sent flying backwards towards the ground, and crashing hard. Megan was shocked, and surprised at what happened. Who? She wondered before Arashikage lands in front of the female Martian who gasps in surprise. Arashikage turns his head around, and eyes smile at her. Yo, he simply says before seeing Twister get back on his feet, and looks up to see a blonde in front of his line of sight. And who, pray tell you? Another one of those brats? No, I'm the one who knocked you on your chin with a fireball earlier, the new Cory stated. Oh? Well, I think I should return the favor, Mr. Twister stated before bringing his arms forward, creating a small tornado before firing it at his new foe. Said blonde smirked, as the Twister got close before bringing his hand up and down in a slashing motion, resulting in the cyclone being split in half by the blade of wind. What the android wondered. You're not the only wind master in town, buddy. And if that simple breeze is all you're capable of, then I might as well let the little leaguers deal with you, Arashikage taunted. Impressive, but let's see you handle this. Electricity cackled around the hands, and aimed them at the blonde. He then fires 2 bolts of electricity that combine to form an even powerful one. His opponent draws out 2 double-edged swords with 2 curved prongs on each side with electricity cackling around them brings them forward. The bolt hits, and pushes him back a little, but he keeps himself in place. The thunder swords absorb the vast amount of electricity until it ends, and small amounts of static shock remain around the blade. Thanks for recharging my blades, now let me return the gesture. He then raises the blades in the air, and turns them into a reversal grip. Reizo, Ikazuchi no Yutage, Lightning Burial, Banquet of Lightning. He stabs the blades into the ground, and two powerful waves of electricity cut through the ground, and towards Mr. Twister, who instantly leaps into the air to avoid the attack. That was when Arashikage appeared before him, and delivered two horizontal slashes across its chest before he spun, and kicked the droid down onto the ground, and crashed, causing a cloud of dust to erupt from the crater. The android rises up from the crater, only to stumble backwards, as he was struck by a flash of yellow, and his left arm was gone, leaving a few wires to dangle from the stump, and static to course around it. He tried to turn around, and the same action occurred, as he lost his other arm. No! This can't be happening! Naruto appeared, and saw the droid attempt to fly away. Naruto crossed the blades in an X formation. Where do you think you're going? The blonde asked, as he created a ball of electrical energy, Raikyu, lightning ball, and launches it at the fleeing droid. It makes contact, and an explosion occurs which sends the smoking Twister to the ground once again. Aqualad, Kid Flash, Superboy, Robin, and Miss Martian gained consciousness during the fight, and their eyes widened, as they saw Arashikage shoot the droid down, and onto the ground. Ah man, not him again, KF complained. Megan on the other hand blinks in confusion. Who is he? She asked the speedster. He's Arashikage, Robin answered. A ninja, but not the type that you would see in our world. The last encounter I had with him was when Batman, and I tried to stop him from killing a drug buyer. Wally on the other hand raised his brows. What do you mean tried? Don't tell me he beat both you and Batman? The bewildered redhead asked his friend, who had a miffed expression on his face. No, he made Batman retreat, and I was knocked out by his partner. He answered back, since that night hurt his pride, as a hero, and as the partner of the Dark Knight. Meanwhile, Arashikage watched the droid crash into the ground again, and explode, scattering parts everywhere, before the head of a human-type android rolled next to his foot. And an android operating an android? I swear these supervillains get more stupid by the day. Oh well, I'm out of here. With that, he vanishes in a vortex of fire, shocking the soon-to-be covert team at what had transpired, and wondering if they would have more encounters with this mysterious ninja. In an alleyway, two thugs wearing ski masks were dashing through the back ways with two large sacks in their hands, and a handgun in the other due to the fact that they robbed a jewelry store not too long ago, and were on the run from the police. Hey, I think we lost those cops, man, let's take a break, Thug 1 asked his partner before they stopped in their tracks. Are you kidding? Green Arrow's in this part of town, and I do not feel like facing that Robin Hood wannabe or his sidekick, Thug 2 said. Thwack! Thug 1 screams out in surprise as he is ensnared into a net that popped out of an arrow, and hits the ground, losing his prize and his gun, causing the second thug to look around in fright. Shit, I've gotta get out of. Thwack! He screams out too, as he is ensnared by a net like his partner was, and hits the ground, as well. From the rooftops a figure jumps off a rooftop, and lands in front of the two thugs. The person had auburn hair, and wore a black eye mask. He was garbed in a predominantly black bodysuit, with a red chest and collar. He had a quiver strapped to his back with two gray shoulder straps connected across the chest, and wore black fingerless gloves with one that ended near his forearm, and in his right arm was a red and black bow. As Speedy, Thug 1 started, and got a scowl from the young adult. It's Red Arrow now, and for the record I'm the so-called Robin Hood's ex-partner. Get it right next time. He walks over to the guns, and kicks them away before leaving the scene, as he hears the police sirens get closer and closer. Later on that night, Red Arrow was watching the busy city from the rooftops. Nice night for a rooftop stroll, isn't it? A feminine voice said beside him. Roy's eyes widened, and he turned his head to see Cheshire sitting on the edge of the rooftop staring at the busy city like he was. He jumps to his feet, drawing his bow, and an arrow from his quiver, and takes aim at her. Cheshire simply turns her head at him, and tilts it sideways. My, aren't we jumpy? You can relax, Speedy, I'm not here to kill you, she assured him, but he didn't let his guard down for a second. It's Red Arrow now, and why should I believe in a shadow? He questioned. Ex-Shadow, she corrected, I left that organization a long time ago, and FYI. If I wanted to kill you we wouldn't be talking now, would we? Roy pondered on it for a second, and looked into her eyes to see no form of deceit in them, and lowered his weapon slowly. So you're shooting straight then? Then why, pray tell, is an ex-Shadow interested in the former protege of Green Arrow? He questioned, and Cheshire shook her head. Oh, not me, a friend of mine is. He believes that your skills would make a great addition into a group he's preparing to make, and is extending an invitation, she answered. Then why doesn't he meet me face to face instead of sending his errand girl? Roy asked once again to Jade, who chuckles. Because I'm already here, a voice said from the shadows. Red Arrow turns his head, and his eyes widened, as he sees a blonde male garbed in an odd ninja outfit walking out of the shadows. You must be a Rashikage, Red Arrow said, getting a nod from the blonde ninja. And you must be a Red Arrow. I have to admit the name sounds a lot better than Speedy, wouldn't you say, Cheshire? He asked the ex-shadow, who nodded. Indeed, it has a nice ring to it in my opinion, she answered back. Can we get on with the reason you've gained an interest in my skills because I have a city to patrol? Red Arrow asked in an impatient tone with his arms folded. Well, aren't we impatient tonight? Very well then, to be perfectly honest, I've heard about you denouncing yourself as Green Arrow's partner since he doesn't consider you to be an equal like he is with the Justice League. And honestly, I don't think that's fair to you. And I also heard that you've been going solo for about 2 months now. RA raised a brow at this before Naruto continued. Having a global spy network has its perks, and I'm sure you've heard about me. Who hasn't? From what I've heard, you're some type of super ninja capable of performing feats that even the best trained assassins can do, and you're also feared greatly in the criminal underworld due to you taking out several major crime lords and crippling their operations greatly. I also heard that the Shadows along with the Cobra cult have placed a huge bounty on your head for your actions, and organizations like the Yakuza and Triads are also out for your blood. That, and you're not in good graces with the Justice League due to your methods of justice, Roy explained. On the other hand, blinked in amazement. Well, I guess my reputation does precede me, but don't believe half of the stuff you've heard about me. I don't outright kill every thug or purse snatcher that enters my line of sight. I save that for the real criminals, and I also have a code that I follow that keeps me honor-bound. If I can resort to not killing my targets, then I can, as I'm not a cold-blooded murderer, Naruto informed the 18-year-old archer. I see. I guess the Leaguers had you all wrong because from my standing you don't appear to be a mindless killer, Roy stated. Finally someone with sense, Naruto said with a bit of humor in his voice. I don't understand what gives a bunch of comic book rejects the right to judge my actions. No offense to you, of course. Roy simply shrugged. None taken, though I'm not sure about your partner since she claims to no longer be a shadow, but she proved herself, especially since she had the opportunity to stab me in the back. Jade, on the other hand, smiled. There's only one man I want to stab in the back, and it's not your archer boy, she said while patting the hilt of her sai. That aside, the offer to join us is still on the table. Roy, however, pondered on this before looking back at them both. And if I were to decline your offer? He asked warily. On the other hand, shrugs. Nothing. If you don't want to join, then who am I to convince you? Like she said, it's simply an offer with no strings attached whatsoever, he answered to the archer. Red Arrow remained silent for a while, and then spoke up again. I'll need some time to think about this because honestly I don't feel compelled to join the group just now. That was his answer to the two. Cheshire simply nodded, and Arashikage did the same. Fair enough. But before we go our separate ways, did you hear the rumors of the numerous murder sprees that have been occurring lately? Arashikage asked the archer, who nodded. Yes, apparently several people have been found dead, and most of them happen to be very influential in the community. They have mainly occurred in Gotham City, Central City, Star City, and even Metropolis, Red Arrow answered. Not too long ago, a scientist was murdered in a Star Labs facility with multiple lacerations on his body, and from the looks of it have been done by a blade, he answered, perking Cheshire's interest. Any idea on who the killer is? Arashikage asked, and got a negative shake from Red Arrow. Nothing, but if I were to guess it was possibly done by members of the Shadows, but perhaps your friend knows since she claims to be a former member of the group, R.A. remarked, giving Cheshire one last look before turning around. I'll be investigating this issue, and until then, I'll see you around, Roy replied before hopping off the rooftop and descending into the shadows. He's nice, Jade remarked, getting a chuckle from Naruto. Indeed, aside from Jade, do you know anyone from the Shadows who is capable of doing such a feat aside from you? He questioned while the former shadow pondered on it. I'm pretty sure I know who is capable of such a feat, but I won't be too sure until I can inspect pictures or a body, she answered. Then I guess our only option is to head to the autopsy lab at the Star City Police Department. Let's go. Star City Autopsy Lab. From the ceiling, one of the panels slid open, and two shadows landed into the barely lit vacant room. Talk about a creepy setting, Arisher muttered while Cheshire walked over to an operating table that had a body which was covered by a white sheet. She kneels down, and notices a white tag on the foot that was dated for today. She then slowly uncovered the sheet, revealing the upper body of a middle-aged Caucasian male, and noticed the lacerations going across his body. She inspected the body with a keen eye before her dark gray eyes widened when she noticed the slit going across the man's throat. I don't believe it, she whispered to herself, getting Naruto's attention. Said blonde walked behind her and looked over her shoulder. I'm guessing you know who did this, right? Naruto asked, and got a nod from her. Yes, I do, but I'll tell you once we get back to the hotel, she answered in a serious tone. Naruto nodded and placed a hand on her shoulder before vanishing in a gust of wind. Hotel. Jade was sitting on a chair typing on a holographic keyboard until a screen popped up. Naruto was standing behind her while she pulled out a thumb drive and inserted it into the USB port. The holographic screen flashes a few times, downloading the info that was on the screen. I know he's still in their database, she mused until the screen blinked. Got it. She tapped one of the holographic screens, and it enlarged, revealing the picture of a male. He was garbed in an all-white outfit that was more street-like in appearance. From his appearance, he was of Asian descent with slicked back hair. From the appearance, his hair was black on both sides, but white in the middle. Now Naruto was curious about this person. So who exactly is the guy? He asked the ex-shadow. Jing Wu, aka White Tiger, she answered with a grim expression on her face. Like me, he is one of the Shadow's high-ranking assassins. He is a skilled martial artist, and a master with blades, with his favorite being a knife. Naruto eyed the person, and looked back at Jade. You think he's our suspect? He asked. Jade turned around sporting a serious expression on her face, and nodded. I don't think I know from experience just how skilled he is. Tiger is keenly knowledgeable in human anatomy, and knows how the human body operates, and which areas to hit in order to keep his prey alive. He doesn't outright kill his target, he plays with them, and enjoys seeing them slowly suffer before finishing them off with a quick slash to the throat. He has a keen eye, and has trained his senses to their peak, and is capable of pinning a fly to a wall by its wings without killing it, she said. I see, and judging from your expression and he has some sort of history. Is he an ex-boyfriend? He questioned, and Jade snorted in disgust. Worse, we had a rivalry to see who was the best back then. He was always trying to prove that he was better than me, especially due to our code names, me being the cat, and him the tiger. The guy's a sadist at heart, willing to hunt down and kill anything, even children, she informed Naruto, who frowned at that. He then notices Jade's hand was trembling a little, and places a hand on her shoulder. What's wrong? Naruto asked in a concerned manner. Jade notices her hand trembling, and grabs the appendage before sighing. I don't know if I did the right thing in leaving the shadows. I'm not concerned about myself, but I fear for Artemis, and my mother, since they'll be targeted because of me, she answered with fear laced in her voice. Jade felt a hand on her shoulder, and looked up at Naruto, who was smiling at her sincerely. Jade, I understand you're worried, but I think you did the right thing leaving, and you have nothing to worry about. I will do everything I can to protect not just you, but them also, he assured his partner. Jade stares at him for a few minutes, and smiles, placing her hand over his. Thanks, Naruto, you don't know how much that means to me, she says. So where is Rose? With her brothers, they're having a family get-together in New York. That or Grant is probably dragging them off to raid museums again. You can never tell with that guy, he joked, getting a giggle from Jade. So you're basically free until she comes back? She asked the former Kage, who nodded. Yeah, why, you gonna ask me for a date? He asked teasingly. Jade got up, and turned around face him, and pressed her finger against his chest. Maybe, she sang, twirling her finger around his chest with a sly smile on her face. If you're interested, of course, I'm sure Rose wouldn't mind. Naruto simply chuckled lightly before wrapping an arm around her waist. You're hopeless, you know that? He remarked, and got a playful slap on the shoulder. You should talk to the lady killer, she teased, getting a shrug from the blonde. Hey, it's not my fault women find me attractive, whether it's in my ninja persona or civilian garb, but at least it's not as hectic as it was in my realm. I can't count the number of times I was almost ravaged by rabid fangirls. Naruto shuddered, and Jade gave him a questioning look. Was it that bad? She asked in a curious manner. It is, when most of them are trained kunoichi capable of tracking down their targets relentlessly. Thank Kami I'm a speed demon, and for shadow clones because I don't even want to know what they'd do if they managed to catch me, Naruto said in a low yet eerie voice. Jade, however, pictured the thought in her head, and couldn't help but snicker at seeing Naruto run away from females with the same abilities as him, ninja-wise. You must have the luck of the devil on your side, she commented. More like luck of the fox. Anyways, what do you want to do for the rest of the night? He asked. Well, there is this nightclub that's uptown, and from what I've heard it is one of the liveliest clubs in Star City, and it's very popular, but tough to get in except for those with high financial status, she answered. Now Naruto was interested. Really? Well then it's a good thing I'm someone with high financial status. Let's change out of these outfits, and go have the time of our life, he said with a grin. Great, I call dibs on the bathroom, she said, causing him to snap his fingers in disappointment. Jade went into her suitcase, and pulled out some night clothes, and headed to the bathroom with a triumphant look on her face before stopping at the door. Oh, and I'd advise you not to try and sneak a peek on me no matter how tempting it is, she teased in a flirtatious tone. Naruto didn't let her mischievous nature get the better of him. Oh, don't worry Jade, I've already seen what you looked like when we first met, and I must say I wasn't disappointed with what I saw. I have your old mask on my mantle, and your scarf framed in my souvenir shelf, he said with a sly smile on his face while the ex-Shadow's brow twitched at the embarrassing memory before mumbling about perverted blonde ninjas, and closing the door behind her while Naruto chuckled. Later on, Naruto and Jade parked into an empty parking lot in a 2010 black and red Yamaha motorcycle in front of a 2-story nightclub that had the name Cosmic Star in big multicolored words with shooting stars blinking around it with techno music echoing in the background. Naruto pulls his helmet off and takes a look at the place. So this is the Cosmic Star, huh? A little too flashy for my taste, but hey, it's a nightclub. Naruto's outfit consisted of a red collared short-sleeved Sean John t-shirt, a pair of black loose jeans, and red and white K-Swiss shoes. He also had his godmother's necklace around his neck, and also a platinum Rolex watch on his left wrist. Jade also pulls her helmet off and takes in the sight of the building. It beats those sleazy ones in Gotham, she commented. Jade's outfit consisted of a skin-tight black short-sleeves midriff shirt with form-fitting jeans that hugged her lower body with a pair of black and green shoes. She had her hair tied back in a low ponytail with 2 smooth bangs hanging from the sides of her head, and had a pair of white round earrings on her earlobes. Ain't that the truth? Come on, let's head in before all the good spots are taken, he said, and held his arm out. Jade smiles at him, and wraps her arm around his before heading to the entrance of the club. As they got through the crowd they came face to face with a bouncer who was twice as tall and muscular as Naruto, and stared down at them with his arms folded. Shouldn't you kids be at home studying your college midterms? He questioned in a burly voice, and they responded by pulling out their ID cards signifying their age qualification. He pulls out a card reader, and scans them just in case they were fakes before the button blinks green, signifying they were clear. Okay, you're both good to go head in, he told them, as he handed them back their cards. Naruto nodded, and reached into his pocket, and pulled out a large roll of cash, and tossed it to the surprised man. Enjoy your bonus, friend, he said to the speechless bouncer while Naruto led Jade into the nightclub to have the night of their life. Hotel. Naruto groaned, as the sunlight hit his face, and turned his face away while blinking a few times, taking in his surroundings. He was about to sit up, but felt some weight on his body. He looked down to see Jade with her head resting on his bare chest, in a matching black bra and panties, snoring lightly. He blinked once again, and looked around the room to see their clothes littered around the room. His face heats up when Jade unconsciously grinds against him, causing his manhood to rise up from the feeling, and having to hold the moan in. The ex-Shadow slowly opened her eyes, and looked up to see Naruto's blue eyes, and smiled. Hey, she greeted me. Naruto smiled back. Hey, now if you don't mind Jade, I'd like to get up, he asked, and got a sly grin from her. So soon? I'm kind of enjoying this position, she said back in a teasing manner, and from what I'm feeling you're enjoying this too, she said, as she shifted her hips around, as she felt his friend poke her hip. You're playing a dangerous game, Jade. Don't start what you can't finish, he warned her. Jade's smile turned playful, and she responded by leaning forward, and pressed her forehead against his, and placed his hands around her hips. I love danger, and I never leave anything finished, nah are you two? She purred in a low seductive tone. Said blonde ninja growled slowly at the challenge, and before Jade realized it, she was on her back on the bed with Naruto on top of her, eyeing her in a way a predator does its prey. You thought you were in bliss now, Jade, just wait until you get to experience the real thing. The blush on her face went from embarrassment to anger. Oh, and you might want to run to the bathroom before your arousal ruins the bed sheets, he advised, and the last thing he saw before laughing his ass off was a red-faced Jade running to the bathroom calling Naruto a bastard for turning her on. Later on, Rose has returned from her family get-together in New York with her brothers back to the complex Naruto owned in Gotham. She noticed that the place was clean, and heard the sound of a sword swinging from the ceiling. I should have known he'd be training when I got back, she said with a smirk on her face before heading upstairs. Naruto was currently in the dojo working on his katas with a bakken. He performed a series of diagonal and horizontal slashes before stepping back and doing a thrust technique. He then pulls the wooden blade back, grasps it with both hands, and raises it over his head, pausing for a few seconds. Rose watches it from the door with a smirk on her face until Naruto swung the practice weapon down fast and hard, releasing a burst of wind from the attack, and watches as a long slash mark forms on the wall. Said blonde sighs and stands straight up with a disappointed look on his face. Man, it's still not complete. Pulling that wind blade move is a lot tougher to do without my wind chakra, he says to himself. Hate to say I told you so, Naruto. Rose called out, causing Naruto to turn his head in the direction of her voice, and saw her grinning. Before she realized it, he appeared before her, and pulled her into a passionate kiss which she willingly returned before they parted. You miss me that much? Geez, maybe next time I'll leave you alone for 2 months, she joked. So I take it you had a blast with your brothers, huh? He asked, and got a nod from her. Surprisingly, yes, and Grant was actually behaving himself. I honestly thought he was replaced with a clone with the way he treated me to shopping. Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief as she told him this. Wait, we are talking about Grant here, the self-proclaimed greatest thief on the planet, and cheapskate, right? He asked his girlfriend, who nodded back while he looked skeptical. You didn't slip anything strange in his food or drinks now, did you, Rose? Rose's giggle got a little louder, and swatted him on the shoulder. No, I would never do that to Grant, no matter how tempting it would be. He decided to give me a break from the sibling fights we always had whenever we crossed paths. Dad said he'd cut us off from the trust fund, she said glumly, getting a snicker from Naruto. I just pictured Grant having a heart attack if that were to happen. His response caused Rose to laugh along with him before settling down. So what did you do while I was gone? She asked. Oh, you know, trained, beat down some local criminal, stopped a bombing at several banks, messed with Jade, paid Harley and Pamela a visit at the asylum, and so on, he answered, and grinned deviously. Did I mention the teasing I did with Jade? Rose raised an eyebrow at this. Oh? Do tell. Naruto's grin formed into one of perversion. To make a long story short, Jade and I went to a nightclub in Star City, went back to our hotel, and woke up in the same bed in our underwear. After that, we had a little flirting contest where she decided to take it to the next level, but sadly she failed, and lost in a very embarrassing way, he answered. The daughter of the Terminator was now interested. Couldn't have been as bad as the time you swiped her mask and sash, she wondered. Naruto leaned to her ear and whispered what he did to Jade, resulting in Rose's eyes widening in shock and her jaw dropping slightly while he chuckled in her ear. Naruto, I'm shocked. I can't believe you would stoop so low as to pull such an improper and humiliating action against. Oh, who am I kidding? This is you we're talking about, she replied, shaking her head in amusement. I'm surprised she hasn't stabbed you in your sleep yet. Nope, though she did attempt to do so when I was done in the shower. But I knew she was trying to get a glimpse of what you always got to see whenever we got into it. He got slapped in the chest by a blushing Rose who glared at him with her single eye. Have I ever told you how sexy you look with your one-eyed glare? Her gaze softened a little, and sighs. A lot, but please keep telling me I love the attention, she insisted, and wrapped her arms around his waist. Oh really? Okay, then you have the most beautiful hair color I've ever seen, as it reminds me of snow, but is soft and smooth like silk, he says, stroking her soft long hair with his hand. Go on. You Rose Wilson are the sexiest, smooth-talking, sword-wielding, ass-kicking females on the entire planet with no equal. You have the grace of a swan, the cunning of a fox, and the ferocity of a tiger, he said, kissing her jawline and her neck. Easy there, tiger. I just got back, she reminded her boyfriend, who chuckled and simply kissed her on the lips. He looks at the clock and smirks, as it was 3:55 p.m. Looks like it's time for me to go. Rose raised her brow in confusion, wondering what Naruto meant. Where do you go? She asked the blonde ninja. To Arkham Asylum. I promised Harley and Pamela I'd pay them a visit today around 4:30 during visiting hours. Rose growled when she heard Harley's name come up. You're still not made over by that time she French kissed me, are you? He asked in a deadpan tone. That harlot stole the New Year kiss I was going to give you. Of course I'm still upset, she reminded me. Naruto sighs, shaking his head at her grudge. That was 2 years ago. Let it go, he insisted. I'll let it go when I kick her ass 6 ways to Sunday, she swore, clenching her fist in a comedic fashion, causing a sweat drop to form on the back of Naruto's head. So it's okay for Jade and Artemis to flirt with me, but Harlequin can't because she's got a few screws loose? He asked his girlfriend. Rose turned her gaze at him and grins. Yep, Naruto's sweat drop grew bigger. I've known Jade and Artemis for a long time, and I'm used to them hanging out with us. That, and it's entertaining to see them try to flirt with you, but have it backfire on them, she answered. Okay, well I'm off to Arkham, love. He leans over and gives her a peck on the cheek before heading to his room to get changed. Croc resident. Jade opened the door to her parents' complex, fuming at the embarrassing stunt Naruto pulled on her in the morning, and swore to get back at him for it. Artemis was sitting in the living room, brushing her long blonde hair back with a comb in order to smooth it out with a magazine consisting of different hairstyles on her lap. Jade flopped down on the couch, grabbing the remote, and turned the TV on, flipping through channels without even glancing at them. Let me guess, you tried to seduce Naruto again, and failed? Artemis asked her older sibling, and Jade snorted at the question. It was worse. Jade nodded wordlessly. How is it worse? She pulled Artemis closer, and whispered the issue into her right ear. The female archer at first raised an eyebrow, then the second one rose up. A blush slowly formed on her face, and her eyes widened in astonishment until Jade moved back in her sitting position. Once Artemis got out of her shock, she bit down on her lower lip, releasing a snorted laugh. Shut up, Artemis. Jade warned her baby sister, who was stifling her laughter, as Jade glared at her. A giggle escaped Artemis's lips, unaware that Jade was reaching for the pillow behind her. Before Artemis could react, Jade hit her in the face with a pillow, causing the archer to release her laughter and fall back on the couch, clutching her sides. Jade then jumps on top of her sister and attempts to smother Artemis with the pillow in order to shut her up so that their mother couldn't hear her. I said be quiet, she hissed. What's going on here? Paula asks, as she rolls into the room and finds Jade hitting a laughing Artemis in the face repeatedly. Jade, stop attacking your sister, she ordered her eldest daughter, who stopped for a few seconds while Artemis's laughter settled down. Now what is going on here that's you all riled up, young lady? It's nothing, she quickly answered, blushing in embarrassment. Artemis, on the other hand, was grinning ear to ear at the lie. Oh really? Then you won't mind if Artemis tells me then? The retired assassin asked Jade, who now looked horror-stricken. Well mom, it's like this, Artemis started to say. Tell her, and die. Jade growled in a dangerous tone that promised pain for her sibling. Paula looked at them both for a few seconds, and then sighs. It's alright, Artemis, you don't have to tell me. Jade let out a sigh of relief. You can tell me about it later when your sister leaves. She finished with a grin, causing Jade to fall off the couch in surprise. M.O.M. Jade screamed, as the two laughed at her. Arkham Asylum. Excuse me, miss? Naruto asked the receptionist at the visitor's desk. The woman looked up at Naruto, and smiled. I'm scheduled to visit Harleen Quinzel and Pamela Isley today. She checks the guest list for a visit, and sees Naruto's last name. Ah yes, here you are, Mr. Namikaze, you may go ahead. She told the blonde ninja, who nods, and heads to the entrance to the penitentiary, which was guarded by 2 security guards. Hold up, kid, you know the routine, spread M. Guard 1 ordered. Sorry guys, but I don't swing that way. Naruto joked while the second guard rolled his eyes. Spread your arms, Namikaze. Naruto shrugged, and did so while the second guard pulled out a detector and scanned his body. It beeped green, giving him the sign that he was clear. Okay, you're clear, go on ahead. As soon as he passed the double doors, a smirk appeared on his face. Gotta love seals, he said to himself, as he headed to the visiting center. Meanwhile, Pamela Isley's brow was twitching in annoyance, as she watched Harley pace left and right with her arms folded under her chest. Harl, could you please stop pacing around like that? It's annoying, she demanded in a restrained tone. But I can't read, not until I see my adorable maelstrom, she complained, as she continued to pace faster, but then squeaked out in surprise as she was strung up from her ankles by a root tendril, and was now staring at the annoyed redhead upside down. Harl, he'll be here. Have some patience, or so help me out. She started to rant until she saw the pigtailed blonde grin ear to ear, and raised an eyebrow. What's wrong with you now? She turned her head only to be face to face with a grinning Naruto, and shrieks out in surprise, losing focus on the root tendril that suspended Harley in the air, and she dropped to the ground. Naruto winced when the older blonde hit the ground with a thud. You okay, Harlem? Harley then tackled the blonde, who managed to catch himself, and chuckled, as she snuggled against his chest in a cute fashion. Chuckles lightly. Nice to see you too, Harleen, he greeted, returning the hug to the energetic blonde, and turned to Pamela. Come on, Pam, there's room for one more, he offered. Ivy smiled, but also approached, and hugged him, as well before pulling away again while Harley had her arms wrapped around his. How are my children doing, Naruto? She asked. Naruto inwardly chuckles when Ivy calls the plants at the abandoned Gotham greenhouse her children, and nods. They're doing fine, Pamela. I make sure that they get plenty of water, good soil, and sunlight, though some no-name punks have tried to tear the place up. Her smile dropped, and her eyes glowed green. They tried to kill my babies? She asked in an icy tone. Yeah, they tried to. But don't worry, they got a first-hand experience in why they should never piss off Mother Nature by yours truly. He assured her since he did like Pamela's garden, and promised her that he would tend to her home until she got out of Arkham since he did like to garden, and tended to his own plants. Well, in that case, thank you Naruto for defending my home, she replied. Hey, what about my babies? Are they okay too? Harley asked in reference to her hyenas Bud and Lou. Bud and Lou are fine, as well, despite the fact that they caused my food bill to go up, and I've had to have several couches replaced. He joked while Harley rubbed the back of her in embarrassment. Heh, well, at least they're housebroken, she states. Thank Cammy for that, he muttered, getting a giggle from Ivy. So when will you two be released? By the end of the week we'll be on parole in terms of good behavior, Pamela answered with Harley nodding vigorously. Yeah, and I've been behaving really well. I only got off with a warning earlier because one of the guards tried to get fresh with me, and I kicked him in the nads, Harley said with an innocent expression. Naruto sweat drops at this, and rubs the back of his head. Well, at least you had a valid reason since that guy had no right touching you. Say, since you two are gonna be on parole, how would you two like to stay at one of the safe houses I own? Pamela and Harley look at each other, and back at Naruto, and nodded, smiling heartily at the ninja. Good, so I'll come by, and pick you two up at the end of the week, and take you both there. I set the place up to where half of it is like a miniature greenhouse for you Pamela, and a theme park for Harley here. Harley squealed in delight, and glimpsed Naruto. Thank you Narapu, that is so sweet of you. Harley thanked Pamela, agreeing at the kind gesture Naruto was doing for them. Unknown location. Several shadowed figures were sitting around a round table. This super ninja Arashikage is starting to become a nuisance master, the shadow in the far left replied. I agree, he's proven to be a powerful adversary. Too powerful for my liking due to how he's crippled several major criminal activities across the globe in no less than 3 years, an elderly voice replied. Not to mention that he has no qualms in killing, as he's taken out some very influential members in the criminal underworld. Something the so-called heroes of justice are afraid to do unless they want to lose face with the people. But this person has no such morals, a third voice said. I heard he had an encounter with the Dark Knight personally, and forced the man to retreat, a gruff voice remarked. So what should we do? The one in the middle pondered on this, and spoke up. For now nothing, let him continue his crusade until we can get more information on his abilities. He may prove to become a valuable asset to the shadows, and perhaps the one who will succeed me. The rest looked back at him, as he smiled. And who knows, we might even be able to pull this ninja from the shadows, and into the light. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.